It's a high chaos ball, a wobbler. Oh, Reynolds, favoured by the bounce. He's going to turn it round the body, and he's got enough on it.
Yes, welcome to For the Bounce, brought to us by Air Diffusion Agencies. Co-host Greg Anderson here with me. I hope you can stay with us. It's going to be a great show. Ando, interesting couple of days in footy.
It has been a very interesting couple of days. You know, we had just one of the most exciting games that I've watched for such a long time. And
you're talking about the Port game?
Well, I'm talking about the Port game,
Oh,
and I've just got to say that I've been one that I haven't really enjoyed too much of the footy on TV, but wow, what a spectacular game that was, and really tough by both teams. And then to the other end of the scale,
Yep.
I looked at the Crows and St Kilda. I reckon I turned it off 3-4 times. I just can't believe the disposals. I thought it was very lacklustre. Perhaps it was a Monday night. It might have been 4 degrees, whatever the case may be. But I was really disappointed in the game, and I thought it had no razzmatazz at all.
All right, let's go back to the first game. I want to ask you about the Port game. So Robbie Gray, a minute and a half before, he should have kicked and he handballed, so it's a turnover. Then he's on the boundary line, and we know what happens. He kicks and they win. So gone
Right
from
foot,
villain,
right side too, by the way.
villain to hero in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But the focus is on that last kick of the game. He kicks and they win. A lot of emotion. I get that. But for mine, Travis Boak was probably the best player on ground. Yet all the talk is about the last play of the game, which shows you what we remember, doesn't it? The emotion of the game and all that.
That's football, isn't it?
But it's any sport.
Goals are everything. Goals are everything in this game, and we're disappointed because they're not kicking any goals anymore. So that's why we're so excited about it. Hey, don't take a game.
True.
I mean, I'm saying one of my best players was that young Peter Latham. He's 19 years old. He's had 21 disposal for a big man. He had nearly close to.
He was
20,
close to best on ground too.
No one's even spoken about him.
No, but
he's
that's
played
what
5
I'm
games. You're spot on.
But there's my point. There's nothing. I'm taking a moment away from Robbie Gray because a fantastic, tough goal. Get all that.
It's always going to happen in every sport, though.
Yes.
Every sport, they talk about that glory shot, the one that we all dream about. Whatever
buzzer
sport
beater.
you're playing in. You'd have obviously shot it because you're a shooter.
Yep.
Have you shot a couple in
I've
those
shot a couple
last...
that win. I've shot a couple that miss it. But it's the focus. That's what they talk about.
Yeah.
I just feel sorry for the guys that
A couple,
played
not just
really
one, but
good.
you've had a couple. That's good. Yeah. 4 Olympics as well and all that sort of stuff. Let's not worry about that.
Flukes that went in. But again, it was just interesting to read that the emotion of the game gets drawn into that last kick, as opposed to all the work that's gone on to give him a chance to make that last kick. So anyway,
4 quarters of footy, and we speak about
the last moment, no doubt about it. So what we're talking about last moments, the Crows, Tex Walker, leading goal kicker for the Crows at the moment.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of mates that went to the game. They said to me afterwards they're absolutely disgusted with the behaviour of some of the fans, of the abuse that Tex was copping during the game. And one of the Crouch boys was getting it as well.
Yep.
And they walked away going, what kind of support are we giving to our team when they're down? Now, I know they're frustrated.
Yeah, they're down
but
at the moment.
I think if you're going to go to the footy and you're going to sledge the team that you... Sledge anyone, I think, is a bit poor. But if you're going to get stuck into your own team, don't go.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Because they don't need it right now.
No,
they're frustrated.
no, look,
how did you see Texas game?
Look, I really started to watch it after turning on and off because of frustrations.
Yep.
I reckon I would have been as frustrated as Tex Walker would have been.
Yep.
Because the disposal was just deplorable. I would hate to be a Tony Modra, who's an absolute superstar in front of goals, having that team in front of him, and that's the team that I'm going to kick him and deliver him the ball, because it would go nowhere near him.
Yep.
And Tex's frustration, he just must be pulling his hair out, saying, "Well, what more do I have to do? I'm leading. They're kicking up too high up over his head. There's nothing fancy and nothing that's as of AFL standard of delivery to Tex Walker at the moment.
Yep.
He's done the best that he can
under the circumstances.
I
agree with you, and I think he's getting some unfair criticism for that. I think
I could have caned. I really could have had a really good crack at if I was in the. Which I'm not one of those supporters, by the way. But I was sitting there, when I actually thought the game was in the balance, and that was because of Tex taking some strong marks, and mind you, no one's blocking him either. No. That seems to be a real big part of our game. Butters blocked Dixon a couple of times, and I think the centre half forward for St Kilda was blocked a couple of times for taking some important marks in that lowest quarter. Nothing like that for Tex. What we'll do, we'll jump against you, just to make it even harder for you. And I thought they got the ball across the half-back line. He had plenty of time to kick the ball. I won't name the player. And he kicked it to 3 St Kilda players, and that broke the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, they got within 9.
That was when it happened.
Nearly took the grab, and
ended up going back to the half to their half-back. Handballed out to a player that was just bludging anyway. He kicks it forward and went straight to St Kilda, and they end up kicking that goal. And that was, just little things like that is like, that's not acceptable at AFL level.
No.
I know that we're talking about it's not far away, and but wow, guys, get your act together. Really get and take some responsibility.
Do you see improvement though? I think we've seen some signs. It's always frustrating when you lose. You don't want to be one of those people that go, "Oh, we're improving."
O'Brien, fantastic. But Young Keys, I thought was really.
I think they started to show
good.
something to get it back to 9. I thought
McAdam was
good
as well. McAdam gave it a bit of a spark. Duday was great across. He's come back and has found his feet again, and he's running on the ground. On the ground, as opposed to under the ground from last week. Yep. So there is some real, but the actual structure, it's always going to break down if you can't kick the ball to your teammate. That's the key, and that's where they're really letting themselves down. And they're generally, a lot of it's from their experienced players.
All right, 13,500 at the game, not 18,500 as originally reported. Disappointing?
Very disappointing, yeah.
Do you reckon it's COVID, kids back at school, or is it because they're on the bottom of the ladder, or a combination of the three?
I think it's a combination of the three. I think footy's expensive.
Yep.
And COVID has turned the world upside down, and to keep the money in the pocket's probably not a bad thing at the moment. And kids are back to school, so I think it's a balance of everything. But still, you want to see a great game, and Crows just aren't playing great footy at the moment.
All right, the AFL admits that the umpiring was off in the Crows St Kilda game.
What about that? I saw the article today. I nearly smashed me car in the Stobie pole.
So I want to take
Umpire's son, we're sorry. I can't imagine John Carl's reaction to that.
Oh, I would imagine a few coaches' reaction to that. I don't think it made a great difference to the result.
No.
But it was interesting that we've made a mistake.
We've made a mistake. And it's frustrating supporters, and obviously the players as well. But I'll never forget John Carl saying once, and I remember he called out to the umpire and he goes, do you mind if we can do it 21 versus 21, not 23 versus 21? And I just couldn't stop laughing. So
Jack had but I want to take you back, say 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I reckon not that I'm in a position to be giving advice to Gillon McLaughlin and the AFL boys, but Alistair Clarkson comes out after the game and says, we've got this whole holding the ball thing wrong. And then suddenly the footy world seems to be turned upside down with the calls, and we saw it on the weekend. I'm saying to the AFL, and I'm a massive supporter of the coaches, but if the coaches come out during the year and make a statement like that, they've normally got the blinkers on and they're trying to do what's right for their team, not necessarily what's right for the game. So I reckon anytime the coaches come out and they've got a comment on something like that, just disregard it. Just disregard it. At the end of the season when it's all over, then I reckon it's got more merit than during the season.
Oh, there's no question. I think the umpires, and they always have been, protected in the way of their performance.
Yep.
They get certainly scrutinised enough by supporters.
Yes.
And the journalists. But when the coaches go down that track, I think that's really a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that. I think that let's talk about the game in itself, your team, the opposition team, the umpire. It's like you blame the umpire, and it's always been for ever since Word Dotters. The umpire's a bit protected in that area, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's more than
fair. All right,
fair.
yes, NFL, mate. Norwood get back on the winning list after beating Centrals after struggling a bit. Westies get Glenelg in an upset.
Centrals, by the way, haven't won a game either.
No,
but that's good off of
that's
good.
It is, but Glenelg,
they have drawn, though. I should say they've drawn.
Last year's premiers, so they're 2-2 at the moment.
2-2.
It kind of looks like it's a really interesting. And the Eagles they're
awesome
flying at the moment. But doesn't the
awesome.
SNFL look to you like this is going to be a year that's going to be anyone's? Anyone's right now.
We talk about the Glenelg.
Yep.
One of their games they lost by 2 points.
Yep.
And you sort of look at Westies have won brilliantly and they've lost disappointingly as well.
Yep.
A little bit inconsistent, but I think on the day you're right. There's 8 sides that are going to be strong at the pointy end. And it's pretty exciting. But look at the moment, Eagles, South and North. They're pretty well.
They're entrenched up there.
Pretty well at the top of the table.
All right, mate. You know about this
well.
one. What about Prince Alfred, mate? They're just a juggernaut in Divi 1 at the moment. There's 4 teams on top, but Prince Alfred look like they're clear on those teams as well.
The only thing I think St Peter's are a pretty awesome side this year. They've recruited well.
You reckon they can stop the juggernaut?
Brighton Bombers are tough, and of course they've got a quite a good mix of players that have come from Glenelg, who have gone from a SNFL club into the into Div 1, so they're pretty strong. So I think that they're going to be, and Payneham Nord, of course, they're always very strong. So look,
Bodie got his first win on the weekend. Yeah. So Jace Bode, first time player coaching.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yep. So look, I think that Prince Alfred's. My pick at the moment with the names. I know we're going to with names. Is St Peter's going to be pretty hard this year?
So it could be a Prince Alfred St Peter's.
I reckon it might be. Yeah. And don't worry.
You don't
Bombers as well. When you're picking up league players, and I was when I coached Cove.
Yep.
Just for the start of the year, we picked up 3 or 4 players that were at Glenelg. A couple played a few league games, but mainly resis. Oh, geez, it made a big difference. And that's what's happened for Brighton Bombers this year.
So we're going to talk about the Southern Footy League a bit later in the show. Before we go to the break, I want to ask you this one though. 33 games in 19 days. Now, you're a coach. I want you to pop your Cove coach's hat on or your South coach's hat on. Now you're in the AFL, and I'm not disrespecting any team, but let's just say right now you're Port, and you're playing one of the bottom 2 teams. Second game, you've got to back up quickly.
Yep.
Do you rest Robbie Gray? Do you suddenly go, you know what? I'm going to have to rest a couple of key players here for a couple of reasons. A, I don't want them to get injured because we're overloading them. B, I need them at the end of the season if we're going to win the grand final. So we've seen it in the NBA where teams will rest players for a game. They're not injured. They're just saying, we don't want to overload you. Through this period here, 33 games in 19 days.
Yep.
4 games, if you like, in a very short period of time with roughly a 4-day turnaround. Yep. There's already been some soft tissue injuries.
That's the key. They really haven't done a pre-season.
Yep.
The pre-seasons that we're used to. You're getting in there early November. You're working hard to Christmas. Have your little 10-day break. Then you're powering into to lead up to that first game. Now, there was a big block there where there was there was no training. There was no group training. Then slowly we got groups of 2s and then groups of 10s, groups of 20. Still no tackling.
Yep.
And then they've been thrown into an AFL system, which is hard going. It's tough. It's the kilometres that they're running in today's footy is massive. Without a really solid pre-season conditioning with a lot of competitive work, which they haven't done.
Should have they had more players on the interchange? In hindsight now, a couple more players?
I think so. I think the one thing they probably should have eliminated was the number of rotations. I think they should have nearly abolished that this year because of, I think, conditioning. And I think it's proven it with some of the injuries.
So if you're going to have more rotations, could you have more players on the bench? A couple more players as well?
Look, I think there was... I think they would have done both. Or sort of gone to the 25, 26, which is what they do in the pre-season competition of yesteryear when you're still working through your pre-season, and then all of a sudden you're getting the Ansett Cup and the Foster's Cups and that can be pretty hard going because you really haven't finished conditioning, and of course there's always an extra couple of players on the bench, and I think that worked. I think that worked, and that really got you ready for that. The start of the season, which this year is really going to be the final season. Yeah, it's going to be a final season, no doubt.
We're off and running on Before the Bounce. We need to get to a break. Going to hear from your sponsors. Back in a moment.
And welcome back Before the Bounce. We've got a new segment. I know we brought it up and I've actually got some fantastic comments on it. They loved it. There's no show without Ando.
No show without Ando.
It's a segment about nothing. It's a segment about nothing. That's what I like about it.
You are George Costanza, mate.
I do love the show. I love it. Can I be Kramer?
Giddy up. Giddy up. All right, what have you got for no show, mate?
The topic today, will an AFL coach ever have the courage to say to the full forward, just stay at home? If your fullback goes down the ground, I want you to stay at home. Because... I love the direction. I love the direction of actually seeing a full forward, watching the ball going down from half back to the wing, and having that target there. Not players rushing back to hope that they can have someone there to contest the mark at full forward. We see it all the time. Players are holding up the ball for the full forward to go back. You're a super coach. You are a super coach.
Take the risk.
Could you take the risk and say, stay back, just stay back and make make them draw back.
Let's see what happens. A bit like the old, it's a bit like Tony Lockett. He just owned that area and he never left. And of course, then a couple of, I think it's the final series, North Melbourne ran off him and were able to, to win the game. So it kind of exposed him there. I think everyone's got a bit jittery from that moment on. And then of course now you have the loose man who plays back. A bit like Westhoff, for example, will come back and fill up that spot. And I reckon Kane Corns might have started that. But
what about a Modra style?
Yep.
Or just that running Dunstall, that leading out full forward. Lockett's a bit different.
I reckon there's a chance. I think it's nearly at the point where you're going to see it because as the ball moves down the ground, everybody starts to surge.
Could you leave Rewalt at full forward and say, just stay there because when he's out of the blocks, wow.
If you're prepared to take the chance that your team's... And Richmond's probably a good example of that because they will turn the ball over, they will make you turn it over, and they will surge it back really quickly that way. I reckon it's worth a chance. Just one or two times a game.
Because you're looking at a fullback who is not as agile. He's not a wingman. Look at Talia, for instance. Super player. That ticks all the boxes for a fullback or a backline player. Will he be able to get back and then get onto Rewalt?
No.
And then go with his leg speed?
He hasn't got time. I mean, when you've been a defender, so I ask you the question, if I stayed back in the goal square, or inside the 50-minute, would you stay close to me, or would you surge forward and run off?
My whole career was it was one-on-one.
Yeah.
So it's probably
that's what I'm saying.
era.
I reckon you'd be
I couldn't let him go.
nervous.
I couldn't let him go because I know I'm probably one of the only players in today's footies that's accountable.
Yeah.
Because if you kick 5 goals, Talia's a full back. We know who the full backs are.
Kicking on
it's not like a wingman. You're on material, then you go from there. You go to half forward, then you go to half back, and then you go off for 3 minutes. Where you're really accountable for that. That full forward. I reckon it could be.
You're not too far off the mark because I reckon you're nearly seeing it now. If you talk about stoppages or clearances, they're the big buzzwords for the coaches. If you can win the centre bounce and clear it quickly, you nearly create that scenario, don't you?
Yeah.
So even with a loose defender back there, you create that one-on-one opportunity. If we can clear it quickly, get it inside 50, it is nearly a one-on-one.
You'd want someone on him.
So,
and a lot of the full forwards aren't the Tony Lockett style of full forwards anymore. They're super athletes, and but the full backs are still big and strong,
Yeah, the guy who comes to my mind that I'd want to experiment with is if I was coaching Geelong, I'd want to put Blitzarves there. Super runner, great athlete,
great runner.
Even if you went down the ground and left him, he'd be able to stay with you. And then as soon as the ball was turned over, he'd speed back and beat you. You could just kick it back and he'll run it down. Yeah. So I'd be tempted to try it with him.
How many goals did Jenkins kick like that? Before they worked it out a little bit, and we're probably not talking the same athlete.
No. But that Adelaide in that Pike in that first year, that they had that style of game with that. Well, got them into the grand final.
Oh, it did.
And I think the next year they tried the same style, but other teams had copied it and actually improved on it.
Yeah.
So, it's not a bad one. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Good segment.
Good segment.
And that segment was brought to you by Phil Smythe.
And no show without Ando. I'm going to speak to Air Diffusion Agencies and ask how they feel about that one so the sponsor can pull the pin on it. We need to get to a break. We'll be back in a moment. Yes, welcome back to Before the Bounce. Time to get to Game of the State. Barossa Gawler League kicked off with just 3 matches in round 1. Uriupta beaten at home by Gawler Centrals in a minor upset. Centrals had their superstar, Charlie Monia, back, and he was straight into it with a B on G performance. Ando?
That's a nice day, isn't it?
It is a nice day. Yep. In the rain, it would have been foggy too. So,
Yeah, so it's a
good way for Charlie to come back.
Not a great start for Fraser Evans, ex-Sturt player. Coaching debut and just went down
South Gawler.
They're a pretty strong side this year. They picked up pretty well as well. So, but it was a good game. But you want that first coaching. You want to get that one on the.
Grant Filkey's got a couple of boys down there playing at South. Yeah. Not bad stock to get in your team, is it? It's a good idea. You do though. I mean, you've coached. You want to get that first win and get it away. I mean, imagine how Nixie's feeling at the moment, mate. He'd like one, wouldn't he?
I must be. I really felt. I know we're talking about the
Southern,
the Barossa League, but I just want to let you know, I did really feel sorry for Nixie when they zoned in on him just before the siren. You think he's zip. It's a tough one.
Every coach has got to go through it, mate. Now the Southern Footy League, there's only 3 undefeated teams there. The Flaggies, Morphett Vale and Christie's Beach, but a big weekend this Saturday because Flaggies are up against Christie's Beach and it's at Christie's Beach.
They're playing well, Christie's Beach. They're a really strong. They're my pick this year. But Flaggies have had such a consistent 4 or 5 years of footy, probably even longer than that. So it's going to be a cracking game, and that league's doing really well. The Southern League's just doing fantastic. It was a really good.
Even this, there were a couple of blowouts at the end. Like 24 points was the maximum win this weekend.
That's
but all those games right up until the start of the third quarter, there was only 4 or 5 points in it. In fact, it was about 5 or 7 minutes from the end in the two games where the margins were bigger that they got away.
Well, not long kicked 5-11.
Yep. There it is.
Morvale, 8 goals too.
So you want to keep straight.
Lucky, aren't you?
You want to keep
been
straight.
Their first win for the year. 5-11 to 8 goals too.
All right. Now, mate, I know you're following it because your coach down there, mate, the Cobras, they haven't got a win yet. So they need to get the Ando back for a bit of...
I don't know about that. They're been a bit stiff. I mean, their percentage is like 49%. So they went down by less than a couple of goals, I think it was, virtually in consecutive weeks. So they're around the mark. They've played some good teams. I'm pretty excited about the Cove this year. I know, it's a rough start.
Yep.
But at the moment, it's a big week 3.
Wanted to get you
big week 3.
You and the Baz Curtin down there because Baz was involved with Cove.
He was too,
Yeah.
Baz. He's great.
I've thrown you off with that.
We don't need him down there.
Okay, don't go there. Before we go too, I should say this, the Women's League and the Southern Footy League is going gangbusters. The last 2 years they've absolutely exploded down there.
Yeah.
And the women were up and about on the weekend too. So Southern Footy League got a fair bit going down there. We need to get to a break.
Before we go to a break, I say, how many teams, I know we spoke about the other week, are in the Southern League, was it 111 teams that they've
111
got
teams.
Going with the men's and
the women's? Yep.
Wow, fantastic,
So
absolutely fantastic.
I reckon eventually, I know I was going to go to the break, South Adelaide are going to be the benefit of that, the men and the women, because just a great recruiting's around there and they're playing some great footy. So I reckon they've got that marriage together. I know in your time down there it was just forming.
Yeah.
There was a bit of angst and then there was a bit more angst and it started to just knit
gelling
really
together
nicely
beautifully now.
All right, let's get to a break. Hear from our sponsors back in a moment. Welcome back to Before the Bounce. Time to get to rumour or humour. I got you out of the box, mate. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, he's just coming out of the three-quarter time huddle. Ando's doing his own thing. Oh, She's was probably happy with that. Hey, we were right last week. We said no more games in Victoria. Lockdowns happened. Certainly looks like that's it. No more games in Victoria.
Oh, there's no question. As we know, it's every day there's greater cases of COVID-19. It's actually getting scary, to the way of the second wave, and we're crossing our fingers. It's not going to come back to South Australia, and of course now it's creeping up numbers in New South Wales as well. So, but the balance is pretty good with footy at the moment. I think they've got the hubs worked out, they've got the games interstate worked out.
Yep.
So it's sort of taken the pressure of that Victoria and the AFL. And I think they've done it well.
Pretty well. I agree with that. I agree with that. Hey mate, 25 goals, leading goal kicker award at the Crows this year. That's the rumour. Rumour or humour? You think 25 goals? Now, I'll just give you this. Tex Walker is leading the Crows 4 games in, and he's kicked 8 goals.
Yeah. Well, look, we spoke, last week. At the moment, they're averaging 5 or 6 goals a game, and they had.
That's the whole team, isn't it?
That's the whole. Yeah, that's the whole team for the 7 rounds. And of course, round 1, I think they kicked 11 or 12 goals. So, this last 6 weeks has been pretty horrific for them in the way of their goal scoring. But it's also a bit of footy. I mean, it's how the footy's been played now. And I said one of the really exciting games that I've watched this year has been the Power Carlton. And it was just locked. It was locked in into the forward lines with both forward lines of probably having 30 players in there. So it's pretty hard to score. And when you're not playing well, it's nearly impossible to score. And that's where the Crows are at the moment. So
I do not want to say I told you so.
Yeah.
But if we go back to the first show, where before the season started, after COVID, I said to you, when the coaches, they're getting rid of these coaches, we're going to jettison some coaches, and people are saying, won't change the play of the game. And you and I sat here and we said, I reckon it will, because the coaches will be more defensive. They can't risk the turnovers, so they're just going to shut everything down and go slow. There isn't going to be any tempo. Maybe 2 teams, and right now it kind of looks like Brisbane are that way and Port
the running
are that
they're
way.
doing at the moment
they're the only 2.
Is enormous.
So the rest of them are playing shut down.
Yeah, it's
footy.
just push back
and
then push forward. It's just amazing the run that these athletes / footballers are doing in today's style
I reckon
of game.
we'll give ourselves 2 ticks already, mate.
We've got
the Victorian
ticks.
one right. We've got the shutdown defence one right. Now, here's the rumour, or is it humour, mate? There is 130 players unavailable for selection this week in round 8. Rumour or humour?
It's not rumour. It's
not
fact.
even humour. It's
It's
fact.
not even funny.
Okay, I'm going to change the segment. Rumour, humour, or fact? Another one for Ando. No show without Ando. No facts without Ando. Okay, you take over, mate. It's okay.
130 unavailable players.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
And I think it's nearly, we're going back to what you've just said then about the coaches are playing that defensive game, and then they've got to attack, then they've got to defend. They haven't had a great pre-season, yet the amount of running they're doing in a game is astronomical. So when you haven't got it in the kit bag of the endurance and the conditioning, and now you're opening up that kit bag, and there's the pre-season's not in there for you to take out and say, I'm ready for this style of game. The coaches are playing them a pretty hard game of footy at the moment. Yep. And, it's just shut down. It's shut down. That's hard work.
Is it going to get any better then? 33 games in 19 days, or just going to shut down some more?
Look, I think exactly what we spoke about before. I think we need to put a couple more on the bench. Yep. Because we're not conditioned to play this style of football, and the number of games that we're playing in such a condensed amount of time.
Wouldn't it be good for the AFL to come out right now and say, you can have as many rotations as you like, and we'll give you 2 extra players on the bench based on what we're seeing with the number of players that aren't available? Because otherwise, as I said in the segment before, the coaches will rest the good players. Yeah. So we won't get to see them. They're not going to play them into the ground in this 19 days.
You've got to do it. But we've had so many changes in football over the last probably 10 or 15 years. Yeah. We really need to make some changes right now. Yeah. To protect the athletes, footballers. Yeah. And I think it really comes back to, let's have more rotations. I know it's not what the AFL want and probably the style of game, but hey, we're in COVID-19. The players aren't conditioned to AFL football. Yep. We're seeing that because there's 130 unavailable players. Let's get some more players on the bench. Let's change some rules. Let's have more rotations again, and let's make it more favorable for the athletes.
You make a really good point. Protect the athletes. The other part is when they did that, part of it was because it didn't look good for the crowds at the game, players going in and out. We don't see it on TV.
You don't see it.
So it's not going to affect the TV viewer.
No, not at all.
All right, just quickly, mate, there's talk of the grand final being in WA. So my question to you is, mate, will Telstra be happy with the grand final being played at Optus Oval?
I reckon there's no chance in the world they're going to be happy with that
at all. It's going to be in WA. Okay.
There'll be no soup for you.
They're out. No soup for you. Back to the soup kitchen. We're back to Seinfeld
we
again.
Love it. Seinfeld. But no, I'm still crossing my fingers at Adelaide Oval. It's just a beautiful oval. It just ticks every box. It's got the history. You've got that mount. You've got the scoreboard. You've got the boys on the mound. Everything.
We are mesmerised by.
We're mesmerised by it. But you talk about a lot of footballers and cricketers and they do say it is. It's the greatest oval that they play on.
The only problem is
it's not just about the oval itself; it's about the whole atmosphere of it all. What it creates.
I agree with you, and I've been pushing for Adelaide Oval, but I've got a feeling that the Gabba is going to get it. Now, all along I thought the Gabba are out because they're too small, but I'm looking now going, if we're looking at where the footy is being played, Queensland government are being very, very helpful to the AFL right now. WA certainly aren't because they're locking them out. South Australia, and we're all behind Steve Marshall saying, mate, lock them out. We don't want them here. But I reckon when it comes to making that decision, you go, well, who's been most helpful?
Queensland has really,
they've been the hub of it.
They've hubbed the AFL. They've taken that real responsibility away from Victoria, for our great game. Yep. And they've put it in their precious hands, and they've done a wonderful job. Mate, so they probably do deserve it.
Is this last segment yours? View, like, and share. Do you want to close on that one? Because we're closing. I mean, we've changed rumour and humour to rumour and fact. We've got no show without Ando. We're now in the soup kitchen.
I want to tell my friends. Yes. I know you're probably
both of them
at the moment.
Both of them.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Yep.
They're bagging me. I know they're bagging me, and that's fine.
Kramer and George.
I want you to view it. I want you to like it. And I want you to share it.
Well,
there you go.
Don't argue with the great man, Greg Anderson. He's got a McGarry medal. He'll come looking for you. Time for us to go. Hope you've enjoyed the show, everybody. Look forward to your company next week. Bye for now.